Good morning. Today is Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. Avraham and Sarah are the source of the concept that one of the main ways that we serve God is by serving others. They teach us that hospitality and kindness are not only mitzvos that are bein adam lechavero, social mitzvos that help another person, but they are also bein adam lamakom, they are also mitzvos between ourselves and God. And one very simple way to understand the mechanism of how this works is just to think about ourselves as parents. If I were to say to you, if you were to say to me, listen, I want to do you a favor. What is the greatest favor that I could do for you? I would say without any hesitation, the greatest favor you can do for me is do something nice for one of my children. There's nothing that would make me feel more indebted or grateful. I mean, listen. You take me out to a restaurant for a meal, very nice. You buy me a necktie, very nice. You do something to help one of my children, I'll never forget that. And God's exactly the same way. When we do something for one of God's children, there is nothing that gives God greater pleasure, greater nachas. And Avraham and Sarah, at the beginning of our Torah portion, they teach us this. And this lesson that they introduce is a lesson that remains the textbook for us even 4,000 years later. We derive subtle lessons from how they offered the hospitality and what they offered. And we apply those lessons even today, 4,000 years later. Now, the way to see what is truly unique about something is to view two things that are similar, that are outwardly similar, and then to see the subtle differences between them. That's when you really appreciate the uniqueness of one of them. So I want to share something with you that I think is very, very illuminating. Because it's interesting that in our Torah portion, it opens with this example of hospitality on the part of Avraham and Sarah that remains for all time the textbook of how we should act. But our Torah portion also contains another dramatic act of hospitality. And we don't hear so much about it. 3 malachim, 3 angels visit Avraham and Sarah. And after their visit, 2 of those angels go on to visit Lot, their nephew, who now, remember, is living separately in Sodom. And when the angels come to Lot, Lot invites them into his home. He gives them shelter. He even protects them when neighbors want to cause them harm. That sounds like a really great level of hospitality. Why don't we imitate Lot? Why isn't Lot's hospitality the lesson for us, the textbook for us to learn from? In what way is the hospitality and kindness of Avraham and Sarah qualitatively different than the hospitality offered by Lot? So let's look at the verse very carefully. When the Torah tells us about the 2 malachim, the 2 angels that come to Lot, the Torah says as follows: Vayava'u shnei malachim Sodoma bo'erev, these two angels came to Sodom in the evening. Vayar Lot, Lot saw them. Vayakam likrasam, and he got up to greet them. In other words, they appeared before him, they came to him, and he invited them in. That's very nice. But that is not how Avraham and Sarah acted. Remember, at the beginning of the parsha, Avraham is sitting in the doorway to his home, and he's looking out. Vayisa Eina Vayar, Avraham sees in the distance. Vayaratz likrasam, and Avraham runs to them. Avraham and Sarah were watching for guests and ran out to greet them. Avraham and Sarah didn't wait until the guest appeared at their door, which is what Lot did. And there's a big difference between doing a favor for someone because you have to. Someone knocks on your door. They ask you for a favor. Okay, so you say yes. All right, it's nice. It's a mitzvah. I don't want to belittle it. But there's a world of difference between that and doing a favor for someone because you want to, because you love doing it, because then you run after the opportunity. You don't wait until it comes to you. That's the difference between Lot on the one hand and Avraham and Sarah on the other. And the recipient can always tell. A person who is in need can always sense if their request is a burden on the person. If I am offering that help, I might not be conscious of what I am feeling while I am offering it. But if I'm the recipient, I can tell in an instant. It's very subtle, a momentary hesitation, a slight frown that comes before the smile. It can be very subtle, but it's deep, and the recipient will always know whether you're doing it as a burden, whether you're doing it out of love. For 4,000 years, Jewish men and women have been learning from Avraham and Sarah not only to be kind and hospitable, but to love doing it, to do it with enthusiasm, to look for the opportunities, to make the hungry guest not only feel full, but also to feel welcome. I'll tell you a story that happened to me, that I witnessed over 40 years ago. 43, 44 years ago. I was single. I was living in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. I was studying in yeshiva. And my normal routine was on Fridays, I was in Beit Vegan, a neighborhood of Jerusalem. And on Fridays, I would take the bus into the center of town. And I'd usually go into Mea She'arim, into Geula, to do a little shopping, to get a snack to take back for Shabbos. And I would usually stop somewhere to get some lunch. In those days, there was a restaurant. It was like a takeout place, and there were tables you could sit down and eat. And the food was very good. It was called Gerlitz. Very well known. It was there for decades. It's not there now, but it was a scene. So I was sitting in Gerlitz. It was a Friday afternoon. I was having, I don't know, maybe some cholent, sitting there. And I see the following scene. It was pretty much empty because who else besides a yeshiva guy is going to be sitting down eating lunch on a Friday? Everybody else is busy. So it's pretty empty. I'm sitting at a table, and I see the following scene. There is a person that comes in to the store, clearly a person with great financial difficulty, in serious need. It was clear from his appearance. And he comes in, and clearly he was coming in to ask for a gift of some food for Shabbos. Clearly he was in need. So the owner behind the counter responded with alacrity. It was beautiful to watch, with alacrity. And I saw him putting together portions, a giant piece of potato kugel and a big container of cholent and chopped liver and gefilte fish, and he's filling up large bags to give this man, and he's doing it with a smile. And he says to the person, "Good Shabbos. Thank you for coming in and letting me share this with you." The man, of course, is very happy, and the man leaves with his food much more than he ever expected. And I thought to myself, that's really beautiful. That's something special about Yerushalayim. And then I hear the man, the owner, saying to the next person behind the counter, he says, I feel so bad. Why did that man have to come in to ask me for food? Why didn't I know to go bring it to him? He shouldn't have to come to ask me. I should be taking it to him. I'll never forget that. That's the difference between the kindness of Lot, which is still very, very nice, and the kindness of Avraham and Sarah, which is superlative. Let me share one last story. This is from yesterday. I heard this story from Sivan Rahav Meir. A woman wrote to her, "Sivan, I have to tell you what happened yesterday." This woman, I don't know the name of the woman, lives in Israel, obviously. She says, yesterday, there was a girl that we know, that my family knows. She's 17 years old. She is a friend of my daughter. My daughter is a younger girl who has special needs. Sometimes this 17-year-old girl acts as a shadow for her, is a friend to her. Okay, so this girl, 17 years old, calls me and she says, I am arranging a play group for kids, and we're going to do it right next to my house, and I want to invite your daughter. Wow, what a beautiful thing. Everyone is so stressed in Israel today. Children are stressed and traumatized. The need to have a little respite, a little fun, a little calm time. And adult parents also are so stressed to be able to have a safe place for their children to play just for a little while, to have a good time, that they should be able to recharge their batteries for an hour or so. What a lovely thing to do. And the 17-year-old girl says, I'll even come and pick up your daughter. You don't have to bring her here. She picks up the daughter, and they go. And she had arranged, at her house, she had arranged for a magician to come and to do a magician show. And she had pizza for the kids. It was a group of kids. And they played games, they had pizza, they watched the magic show, and the kids had a great time. And afterwards, this girl, 17 years old, she brought her home. She brought this woman's daughter home. And this mother is thinking, this is so wonderful. It was uncalled for. It was unexpected. So kind and done in such a nice way. And she just had this feeling of gratitude to this 17-year-old girl to go out of her way to create this experience for her daughter and the others. Her daughter felt wonderful that this girl had remembered her and invited her. Just beautiful. Later that evening, this woman, the mother of the little girl, was looking at WhatsApp, and she sees that this 17-year-old girl, who she knows, just that morning, she had got up from Shiva. Her father and her brother had run out of the house on Shabbos morning, October 7th, to protect their moshav, and they were both murdered by Hamas. And immediately upon exiting Shiva for her father and her brother murdered by Hamas, the first thing this 17-year-old girl thinks of is, let's create a playtime for a group of kids. That is looking for the opportunity to be kind to others with love. That's not the chesed of Lot. That's the chesed of Avraham and Sarah. And that is what we are capable of emulating even 4,000 years later, even under the most horrifying circumstances. And it starts in our Torah portion with Avraham and Sarah. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.